Welcome to Human OS Mind Your Health Rewired, the show that unpacks the hidden systems driving your symptoms and empowers you to heal from the inside out. I'm your host, Dr. Connie Cheung, and after decades of inside the healthcare system and outside of it as a patient, I've learned this, that health isn't something you chase, it's something you remember. And if you're ready to rewire your body, reclaim your power, and rise above the outdated health norms, you're in the right place. Let's get right to it. Okay, welcome to our podcast, Human OS, Mind Your Health, Rewired. This is your host, Dr. Connie, and I'm super excited because today is very special as Dr. Tony Nader is joining me, whose work has profoundly shaped the modern understanding of consciousness. He is a Harvard-trained medical doctor, MIT neuroscientist, and the global leader of the Transcendental Meditation organization. And Dr. Nader bridges so beautifully the ancient wisdom of the Vedas with the right or rigor of modern science in a way few others can. And in this conversation, we go far beyond the surface into the mechanics of consciousness, the hidden roots of suffering, and how to reclaim the deepest intelligence to heal, lead, and live more fully. You're right if you've ever felt there was more to you than what the world sees. And this episode will remind you of that truth. So let's get started. So Dr. Nader, a global leader, the Transcendental Meditation movement. You're single-handedly doing this. I read your book and I got trained in Transcendental Meditation in the midst of COVID. So I know all about that training and the mantras that we receive. And it's been tremendously powerful, the 20-minute meditation. And you know, when we have the app, everyone, please go get trained. And if you have the app, you can get all of Dr. Tony Nader's education. And I mean, you're the appointed successor to Maharishi Maheshi Yogi in 2000, who's the founder of Transcendental Meditation. And you head the global country of world peace. And I don't even know if I'm saying this correctly, so please correct me, Maharishi International University. And he has brought Transcendental Meditation to mainstream healthcare, education, and leadership sectors. So, Dr. Nader, I have lots of questions, but before I do, I want to kind of invite you and ask you if you wanted to start by saying something to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for having me, Dr. Cheung. It's beautiful to be on your podcast and be with you. You presented me from many angles, so I'm happy to be with everyone. I've written this book after a lifetime of research into what is life about, what is consciousness, what is matter, what is mind, the mind-body problem. The solutions to that can be found maybe through science, even including physics, including ancient knowledge. And I came to a conclusion which I thought I would share with the general public and my colleagues, scientists and philosophers, so that we can have this kind of perspective in the debate and the logic about the reality that we live. And so it's my joy to talk about it and to think about it with great thinkers like you.
Amazing. So consciousness and the nature of reality in that topic. So I want you to explain to the listeners, what is consciousness from your perspective? And is it something we generate or access?
Beautiful question. The thing is, many people talk about consciousness today. It's a fascinating topic because without consciousness, we don't experience anything, which means without awareness. And simply, let's say, just to put it in context, imagine yourself in deep anesthesia and imagine that your life is lived in deep anesthesia. You don't exist practically for yourself. There is nothing that has meaning. You're not there, and you don't know what's going on, what's happening to your body. Even if your body was able to move, whereas in anesthesia, they paralyze you. But the absence of consciousness, the absence of awareness, removes meaning, removes purpose, removes feeling, removes these very profound aspects of ourselves through which we actually live our life. Even what happens to us on the physical level, we know if we grow, if we enjoy some clothes or enjoy some surrounding, some environment, it's all through consciousness. If we have something that hurts our body, it's through consciousness that we live it. It's not through the physical material aspect, because if that physical material aspect is cut from our awareness, then we don't even realize it. We don't know that it's happening. Yeah. Except, of course, if you look at your body and you see something is bleeding or something is happening. But even that is through consciousness, through awareness. And through awareness, consciousness is a big topic today. And as you beautifully mentioned in your question, from my perspective, what is consciousness? Because there are many perspectives on consciousness.
Sure.
Most people who are looking at consciousness today think of consciousness as something like human awareness, human consciousness, when you're aware, when you're conscious as a human being. And the debate about where does it come from goes from thinking that, as you say, it's an emergent quality, which means it comes from the human nervous system, and therefore then we have the ability to be conscious. Or on the other hand, it's something that is primary, that we actually detect or experience somehow through the mechanics of the nervous system. But first, as you beautifully highlighted, what is consciousness from the perspective that I would like to see it studied and presented? Mm-hmm. And to summarize it, consciousness, as the title of the book is, consciousness is all there is. But let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Consciousness is any aspect that senses, detects, feels, experiences, responds to anything, which means it's everything that there is, but it is experience, it is lived, it is manifesting on different levels. So there is a range of what consciousness is. And consciousness, therefore, is not one just thing that is experienced in one special way, although there is a primary consciousness, and we can come back to that, which is an ocean of being. But in the living reality, when we say what is to be conscious, which consciousness is, what does it mean to have consciousness is to be conscious. But to be conscious is on a range from minimal detection, sensing something, to higher consciousness as in humans, and in higher states of consciousness even within humans, where one can experience enlightenment, higher values, expansion of being, and communicate with values and aspects of our life that are much higher than, as you said, what the eyes can meet. Mm-hmm. And so you can say there is a minor, meager, little level of consciousness in a particle even, an atom, a molecule, because they respond to each other, either through gravity or through electromagnetism or through vibrations in the field in which they are. But this is tiny little bits of consciousness, moments of experience, which is not at all almost like human consciousness, but it's still a small, tiny aspect of reacting to something, which is to be conscious of something. Now, this grows and expands as there is more orderliness and complexity. And let's say you talk about a sunflower. A sunflower responds to the sun and turns to the sun. Mm-hmm. That is a much more complex and sophisticated level of sensing and detecting from this flower, from this sunflower, because it has mechanisms within it that makes it turn towards the sun.
Mhm.
Now, one asks, many questions come. What about its decision? Does it decide to turn to the sun, or it has to turn to the sun? In fact, it has mechanisms that kind of forces it to turn to the sun. And so it is indeed mechanical, and it has no choice but to turn to the sun. It can't say, today I'm not going to turn to the sun, and it's my desire not to turn to the sun. Still, it is a level of consciousness which requires, detecting and mechanisms within it to turn towards the sun.
Yeah, to be aware of the sun.
Exactly. So now you go to animals, and you have different levels in animals of consciousness, of being conscious, either detecting food and going through it just in an automatic way, like lower animals, or deciding I like this food versus that food, or I'll run this way, I'll hide, like smaller little animals that we have and pets. That actually react and enjoy interaction even with humans and with each other, and they play, and they have therefore much, much wider consciousness than the sunflower.
Sure.
But their decision-making, their ability to think of themselves as being existent, their choices are still limited. When you come to humans, you have a higher consciousness where we think of the future, we think of the objects that are around us, we use them, we create tools with them, we plan and protect ourselves, and we create new things and evolve and have a higher perspective about who we are, where we are in the universe. We ask ourselves bigger questions. And there we have much broader consciousness. So in the definition of consciousness, we have to put it within a range, a very limited consciousness, all the way to very high consciousness. And even within humans, there are different categories of consciousness. You can be deep sleep, you can be waking, you can be dreaming. While waking, you can be alert, you can be drowsy. All of these are within even a human consciousness. There are different states of consciousness. So this is a very important aspect to consider in order to be able to understand why this proposition that consciousness is all there is.
Sure. I want to keep going because there's more, because you talk really about the unity of all of us being in the same consciousness. It's the field, like it's the ocean of consciousness. So I can't wait to delve into that. And in your work, you often describe consciousness, like you said, as the foundation of all existence, like you exemplified. How can the average person begin to experience? Because this is a very complicated topic. As I'm listening to you, I already know all the questions that's going to come our way. Like, because a lot of people, they're conscious and aware, but not all of them have the ability to see beyond what they see. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Studied the Vedic, and I've been deep in the spiritual world, in the yoga. So the chakra system, the unseen, traditional Chinese medicine fascinates me. So I know that there is a higher level of consciousness. And to me, that's the collective whole, God. And so how do you get an average person to begin to experience that truth rather than try to intellectually understand it? Because I think that's where most people just think this is woo-woo. But you bring so much science to this that I feel like you'll have better explanation.
So there is two values in this. One is direct experience of the field of consciousness and what it is, and knowledge about it, which means to think about it, to understand it from an intellectual level. And so my book, Consciousness is All That There Is, addresses these two aspects and shows what I call 4 pillars of understanding consciousness. One is whether it makes sense intellectually, logically. So it's on a theoretical basis. And the second pillar is empirical research that shows that consciousness actually has an effect, and what science has shown about the reality of life, even from physics and from human experience. And then the practicality of it. Does it make sense? Does it answer our questions in life? Does it, developing consciousness, does it develop all aspects of life? And then the last pillar is the simplicity of it. It's not like a complicated, elaborate as a theory with a huge number of exceptions and all of that. It's very simple, very easy to understand if you go through the process. And so these are the different aspects that justify the explanation of what consciousness is, as I propose. Now, in terms of experience, there is a technology of consciousness, which is meditation. For example, transcendental meditation allows us to dive deep within ourselves and experience that ocean of consciousness. But before we go there, we have to see what is it that we are trying to experience. What is the framework? What is the worldview about reality as a whole, about what consciousness is and where it comes from? And for that, I usually take an example of a field, or let's say an ocean. You have an ocean, and that ocean has different levels of excitation. On the surface level, there are these waves, and as you go deeper and deeper into the ocean, the waves are settling down, the activity settling down and settling down, until you reach the bottom of the ocean. And there you have total silence, total quietness. Consciousness is like a field. It's like that. I mean, of course, it's not made out of water. And it is not made out of anything physical or material. So imagine a reality which is non-material, non-physical, that is like an ocean, that's a field, like an electromagnetic field or gravitational field or whatever, different forces fields. But it's non-physical, non-material, and it is beyond space and time. It is present, it is expanded, it's beyond physicality and limitations. And that ocean has excitations within it. Now you say, where these excitations come from? They come from its own nature. Its nature is to be conscious, because it is consciousness. So what is its nature? It's to be conscious. So what is it conscious of? It's conscious of itself. Already it is reflecting on itself. So there is a self-reflection. And the self-reflection already creates three aspects within the one consciousness. Three, let's call them flavors. One is the flavor of the observer, the one who is being conscious, the subject. The other flavor is of the object, which means, what am I conscious of? That's the object of observation. And in order for the subject to connect with the object, there must be a dynamism that connects them, a process that connects them. And that is the process of knowing, or the process of experiencing. So within one value, within one consciousness, there are these three values that are inherent within it as part of its own nature. Why? Because it is conscious. And when you say, I am conscious, you say, what am I conscious of? And that is what creates a kind of a movement within the silence of pure ocean of being. It reflecting on itself. It's examining itself. That's why we call it consciousness. Otherwise, we would call it, I don't know, fire, water, or we would call it power or energy or something. But we're calling it consciousness as the basis of everything. And that consciousness reflecting on itself creates these initial waves. And then it creates within itself more and more ways of looking at itself. So because it is conscious, it imagines all kinds of ways it can be conscious. So Usually I take an example here, like an author who wants to create a story and fictitious story. So it's fiction, their imagination of different characters, different circumstances, different beings, even, different souls and whatever. You can go aliens, you can imagine whatever you like. And this one author with a very fertile consciousness can imagine anything. Like us, any one of us imagine things.
Mm-hmm.
Some things exist, some things don't exist. Even in a dream, you can imagine bizarre things, and you can, even people who take even sometimes hallucinogens, they can imagine things to be different than what their eyes show.
Sure.
The reality is different in different modes of functioning of consciousness. So even an author with, let's say, relatively limited consciousness can imagine so many things. Now, this ocean of consciousness imagines every possible thing that can ever exist. And therefore, on the field of imagination, there is an infinite multiplicity within that unity. But they are all imagination. They're all myself, For example, one is a doctor, one is a public health, at the same time, a specialist, or one is the same person might be a mother or a father. The same person can play an instrument, can drive a car, can do all of these things, but still it's the one person. So the one person is the driver, the one person is the mother, the one person is the pianist or a guitarist, the one person is a doctor, the one person, the same one person.
Sure.
But under different circumstances, these are the different functions that this person can perform. But potentially, virtually, all of these exist in that one person. They are there. So that ocean of consciousness, which is, we're talking the primordial being, let's say, of existence, has within it all possibilities as an imaginary entities, imaginary realities. They have not manifested yet. We have to explain how they manifest and why they manifest, but they are there. So within the one consciousness, you have all possibilities that exist, and all knowingness of knowing them as being possibilities. And that is the seed, or the seeds in plural, of all that appears on the surface. So, to say it briefly, then the initial state, let's say before the Big Bang, before anything appears, there is that ocean of being, which has within it already all possibilities, which mean the possibility of us talking together today, and possibility of so many listeners listening today or listening tomorrow or listening in 1 week or 1 year under different circumstances. They're already there. They're already there as imaginary possibilities, but they have not manifested yet.
Mm-hmm.
In order to manifest, there is a requirement that has to be added to that. That is the platform from which we are starting.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because what you said is very profound, and I try to listen, but to be honest, it's a very hard topic to follow. Ocean of consciousness is all aspects of you, and there are many, but it's really the potentiality that's all there. We just don't know it. We can tap into it with the pure the ocean consciousness. So I guess for somebody who is average, how do you get them to understand, or not even understand? I don't even know what the word is, because sometimes I think you have to remove the thoughts or the effort in understanding, because that only locks into a partial, very small part of consciousness. And I feel like we're all dancing in this, versus you're telling us, what I've learned from all your talks is, it's this sea, ocean, all the potentialities there for everyone. It's not just for me, for you. It's when we sit in that transcendental meditation or that meditative state that gets the brain waves to sort of come down to that deep sea level. The way I understood it is we then tap into that. We have these moments and we have to have full faith that we do, because people want the experience. Oh, I felt nothing. I didn't feel awakened, or do you know what I mean? They want some tangible evidence. And I always say, you just practice with full commitment. And I think what you explain really helps people to anchor themselves so that they could. Do you know what I mean?
Beautiful. Yeah. See, now this is this is the other pillar, which is the direct experience. You know, you have to know what you're experiencing. So if we first describe reality, that there is this ocean and it has waves. These waves, we have to explain where they come from. So they come from the self-reflection, and that creates stirring in the ocean. So the stirring in the ocean, what it creates waves on the surface. Once, let's say, the wave is created and you're sitting on a wave, and let's suppose your consciousness or your vision is narrow, you can only see that one wave. All the other waves appear separate and appear different on the surface, and they are separate and different on the surface. But if you go dive deep into your ocean of awareness, you will find that you are actually only a wave in the ocean, and all the other waves are also waves that are part of the ocean. So they are part of your inner deep self. Now, this is on a theoretical level. How do we make sure this is true? From many, many different angles. One angle is direct experience. Direct experience means, can you dive into the ocean? And now we know that we can think on a surface level and a limited vision when the mind is stressed and strains and is focused on something. And that is one little vision. But there is a technology of consciousness that allows you to dive deep within yourself, like you're diving in that ocean, because you are the wave, and now you dive deep within yourself. And this technology is called Transcendental Meditation, which means a technique that transcends. Transcends means to go beyond the surface level. And what Transcendental Meditation does is gives the inner direction to the mind, and the mind settles down towards its own being, guided by its own nature to desire more, to be more happy, to be more charmed, to be more expanded. And there is a technique, we use a mantra, which is a sound that has no meaning. And you find that effortlessly, naturally, the mind starts settling down deeper and deeper. So if the mind can think in a fast way, it can also think in a slower way. It can think in a fainter way. It can think in a faintest way. And that is how the mind settles down. Usually when the mind settles down, we fall asleep in the night as the mind settles down. This technique allows us to settle down even deeper than sleep, but yet remain awake within. And what you discover then is that you have a broader awareness, broader comprehension, that you have a beautiful inner experience of being unlimited, expanded. You know yourself to be something absolute, which is non-changing, which is not just subject to the fluctuation of thoughts and memories and limited beliefs and all of that. So you transcend all that. That's why we call it transcendental meditation. And here you experience who you truly are. And you find there is something more profound in you than what people have told you or what you imagine about yourself or about your mind jumping around in all directions. And that is the value of the direct experience, which you wanted us to get to for good reason.
Yeah.
because there is theoretical and there is actually practical. And so that's the second most important pillar of the understanding, is that there is a direct experience. And what is important is that this direct experience is not just something nice that you experience for 20 minutes morning and evening. It has profound effects on the physiology. It clears the stresses from the body. It removes the strains, the fears, the anxiety. People who have depression, they're feeling awakened. People who have anxiety, they calm down and they relax. And this is scientifically studied. More than 700 scientific research studies have been done on this that shows that the intellect, the mind, the clarity improves in students and performers and creators, but also the body improves, health improves. There is less disease. There is a bigger ability to fight, diseases, a better immune system, more balanced physiology, less cortisol, even prevention of different diseases and heart disease, for example. Studies have shown that follow-up of 5 years, people who practice transcendental meditation, they have as much as 66% less mortality from heart disease. And so this is where we say that consciousness is truly permeating and influencing and guiding in a very, very practical way all aspects of our life.
Yeah. And I think it's almost like getting our people to really come home to themselves, the essence of themselves, because I'm learning us human beings have this inherent love and wisdom deep within. And oftentimes in our efforts to dissect scientifically, we lose sight of what we don't see. Anyway, it's just so, the oceans and the conscious levels, that was so beautifully represented. And I think that analogy really stuck with me a while ago when I first read your work. And that really helped me to understand, oh my gosh, I want to go deep. Don't be up here because it's very violent and it's
Yes.
very volatile and it's up and down. I don't know when, but here's another question. Do you think there's a right or wrong way to approach your inner journey? Or is every path ultimately the same towards consciousness?
Every path is towards higher consciousness. That's part of the nature of reality. And I explain this in the book and why it is, but to make a long story short, every path is going towards higher consciousness. But however, on the way, we might be delayed or we might be accelerating our path. But the tendency of nature is to guide you there. And when we say that there are problems that happen on the way, usually there are points where there are levels of awakening to get you to realize where you are, where you're going, and to adjust, to think it through carefully. So it's like you're going on the highway and there are rails on the side to protect you from falling, let's say, in the valley or in the ditch or something like that. But if you make a mistake and turn your car in the wrong way and you hit those bumpers or those, things that prevent, you get upset, maybe your car gets damaged, but those railings are protecting you from falling somewhere else, and they push you back on the road. So even things that happen to us that can be negative or not so positive have to make us think, are we on the right direction? Are we growing in the fastest possible way? Or are we kind of going in the wrong direction? So everybody is on the path, but depending the choices you make, you can be slower or faster, or you can meet with situations that have to adjust and correct you back. Like you put your finger in the fire, it burns. And so you say, oh, why should there be burning? Why should there be pain? Well, it protects the finger, because if there is no pain, you don't know that this harms the body, this harms the physiology. So the pain that we experience is something that is telling us something we need to take care of, something we need to not do or protect ourselves from. And so this is how these mechanisms automatically and correct us in different ways.
You're
And
saying,
there is a fastest way, of course, which is to directly go there. That's why we are, teaching, transcending, and going directly there, morning and evening, and then acting in the day to fulfill our goals and desires.
yeah. So you're saying everybody has their path, but nature is directing us in that inherently. Whether there's obstacles that come your way, life circumstances that may be negative, those are considered railings to direct you in the right path in some way, shape, or form. Am I right?
Correct. That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
That's a very good way to look at it. So in a time today when science often dismisses spirituality, how can we bridge the two without diluting the other?
Beautiful. I think science and spirituality are two different aspects of approaching reality. One is a scientific method. The scientific method is really very good, very much developed, because it compares what is real with what is not real, what makes an effect with what doesn't make an effect, what is imagination versus reality, what is reliable, what is producing effects, and what is real. And this science is based, therefore, on both theory, this is science, and empiricism, which is a study of research and comparison and control groups. Now, scientists have tended to run away from that which is spiritual, because there have been so much different confusions and different propositions of what is the reality on the spiritual level. However, now I feel science is coming back to the study of consciousness. And consciousness is something that is not material or physical. It's a very personal, subjective experience. Of course, there are many scientists that think, okay, it's the brain that creates consciousness, and therefore consciousness is the result of physical material interactions, etc., as in the nervous system. But they haven't found any logic yet or any system yet to explain how we go from the physical material into the consciousness realm or reality. And therefore, they have, even scientists, they have their own dogmas. For example, the belief that everything is material and physical is not something that's demonstrated except through our senses. But when you go deeper into matter and deeper into what the physical world is made of, you discover that it's actually fields, and fields that are non-local, etc., and they are entangled. So these are complicated ideas from physics and quantum physics and quantum mechanics and quantum field theory and unified field theory, which I also propose and explain in the book as actually supporting the fact that at the origin of everything, there is a field. And if this field is non-material, non-physical, then this is where we say consciousness is the reality, and explain how it emerges. And to bridge then, to go back to the question of bridging science and spirituality, it is really defining what spirituality is. And spirituality is truly consciousness. This is what it is. That is the field which is non-material, which is non-physical. So the difference between physical and material and spiritual is very clear, in the sense that physical is one aspect of energy and etc. Material is localized physical values. And then spiritual is that which is neither physical nor material. It is spiritual. That is what spirituality is. So if we define spirituality as consciousness, pure consciousness, that means something that is non-physical and non-material, and then explain to the scientist how this non-material, non-physical entity or reality appears as being physical and material on the surface, so we don't deny the reality of the physical and the material, but we show that there is a field that can appear as physical and material, then we are bridging between spirituality and materiality. See, this becomes a philosophical question. Are there two things, something spiritual and something material, that are separate?
But I think we're recognizing that the consciousness really does have a role in physical manifestations now.
Exactly. And in the book, I go beyond that. I say that actually it's consciousness that appears itself, it appears as physical and material. So physical and material is an appearance within consciousness. It is a level of experiencing itself from a limited perspective. A limited perspective. So, you know, humans can see only
what they see.
The eyes from red to violet.
Mm-hmm.
If it's ultraviolet or infrared, we need an instrument to see it. So we extend our ability to see through instruments.
Sure.
And as you go through more and more instruments and you study the spectrum of the electromagnetic field, you start discovering that it is part of a more unified level of nature. This is where we get to the quantum mechanical, and then the quantum field, and then actually the unified field theories that say that there is one field. This is physics. I'm not talking anymore like
Sure.
consciousness. Yeah. Physics says that there is a unified field, one field that appears as the other fields. And then these other fields, they fluctuate within themselves. And when they are observed, they collapse into individual entities that collapse in time.
Experiments with the whole.
Exactly. Yes. The double slit experiment and like that. So the observer plays a role in collapsing the potentiality into reality, into physical localization in time and space. And so all of this is indication in support of a more unified level of reality, which is mostly mathematical and consciousness related than physicality. And so there is a logic for how consciousness can appear within a certain range as only that reality, as only the matter, the physical, the surface value. And that is because our human dynamics of our awareness, of our physiology, only allows us to see a specific aspect of the reality that is on the outside.
Sure.
And so what we experience as real is only one layer of reality.
Yeah. We see the world as we are, not
exactly. As we can see it, as our system allows us to see it.
Sure.
You know, if we had eyes that can see the gravitational field rather than the electromagnetic field, we would see a completely different universe. If we had eyes that can see different range of the electromagnetic field, we would see ourselves and each other from a completely different perspective. But since we have a limited perspective, we are seeing from this limited perspective. You know, if you were to take the entire planet Earth and remove the emptiness that is within it, as you know, you can put it all in a cube, you know, which is maybe 1 centimeter cube. And that means that everything is actually emptiness.
Yeah.
But since the electrons and the atoms are zipping through at fast rates and our eyes cannot differentiate the limitations between them, they appear to be solid. The same for touching, for hearing. Maybe these concepts are complex to discuss within a short period of time, but it really is that our senses are seeing only one aspect of reality. And if we dive deeper and deeper and deeper, we find many other layers of reality that can be experienced differently by different machines or different ways of experiencing.
It's a complex topic. I think you did a very good job of doing, but I'm going to invite the readers to read your book further. But I also want to kind of ask you about, because I'm in healthcare, what would it take for current mainstream healthcare or science to begin integrating consciousness as a key factor in well-being? Because I feel this sort of a strategy or a method, transcendental practice, is what people need. And it's the hardest thing for me to get them to do.
Yeah, it's science also. This is where science is helping spirituality and where spirituality is becoming a science, in the sense that what you do on the level of consciousness and when you practice transcendental meditation, you actually improve your life, you improve your well-being, you improve your resilience, you improve your ability to be happy, you improve your longevity, you improve you improve hospital admissions. And there are research also that shows that when a group of people practice this program together, they change the environment and the response from even people who don't practice transcendental meditation. So there is a collective consciousness that is created by individual consciousness. And this collective consciousness has qualities. And those qualities depends on the qualities of the individual consciousness. If you want a forest to be green, you have to have every tree to be green, or almost every tree to be green. And so peace in society, harmony in society depends on individual peace and individual harmony. What is good is we don't have to have everybody meditate, but if some people meditate, already they bring this collective consciousness to a state of rest and well-being that we have seen results in more than 116 research studies that show the effectiveness of this on society. And so there are benefits where you see reduction in accidents of the road, reduction in hospital admission, and infant mortality, and crime, and drug-related crimes, and all kinds of problems are diminished when there is enough people in society that meditate. So there are very real personal benefits studied scientifically on the mental level, on the health level, on the behavior level, on the level of society. And now in many hospitals in the United States, over 90 hospitals have adopted transcendental meditation and offer it to their staff, because there is a huge burnout from complications and stress. There is a lot of suicide that is happening in even medical students and medical doctors. Insomnia, anxiety, depression, difficulties in life. Particularly it happened during the COVID crisis, and continued and is continuing. And what they have seen is those who practice transcendental meditation, they have much greater resilience, scientifically and being published. They have greater resilience, they have greater well-being, sleep better, reduced anxiety, and less depression. And so the effects are very real, and we should realize that we live our lives through consciousness. So if we are happy, if our consciousness is settled and peaceful, that is the main aspect of life. Besides, it gives more creativity, so we can be more productive even on the surface level in terms of our work. Our time is used in a more purposeful way. Because some people say, I don't have 20 minutes morning and 20 minutes evening. I have so much to do. But one should realize that time is relative. If you spend your time wasting it and you're not able to focus and to achieve what you want, and you do mistakes, that's not the time well used. But if you are clear and rested and feeling good within, and you are more creative and more accurate in your work and more fast in your ability to find right decisions and make right decisions and move forward, then you are saving time. So rest is the basis of dynamic and clear activity, and TM gives that, Transcendental Meditation.
Very, 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 very important and well said, Dr. Nader. I'm curious because I'm really impressed with your reach and your mission and vision for world peace. And I see now why you're promoting this work, because of world peace, really, if we can be more satisfied. So on that note, do you believe humanity is currently in an evolutionary leap of consciousness? And if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, there has been really growth in awareness and in consciousness. We can see this through the interest of people in yoga and meditation, and now a return into something spiritual, because we have been a lot onto the physical level and accumulating and all of that. And people are realizing that it's not only the physical, you can eat well, exercise well, which is very good and very necessary and important. But there is something more to it. And that is on the mental level, on the consciousness level. And this has been happening more and more. And we see, and people are realizing the importance of human rights, of equality, of supporting each other, of accepting the others, and of, thinking of the environment, thinking of life as a whole, feeling responsible for our planet, and all of that. All of these are indication of growth of awareness, growth of consciousness, and moving in the right direction. It is not, enough yet, and we have to have greater number of people participating and growing in awareness so that they can even have an effect on the decision makers, so that they act from a level of consciousness that is bringing all good to everyone and non-good to no one.
So I'm looking at the time, Dr. Nader, and out of respect for your time, I just want to kind of focus back on you. For those who may be new to your work, can you share what drew you to the intersection of neuroscience, consciousness, and also Vedic wisdom?
I was always looking for why we are here, like everyone, I guess, most of us growing up, why we are here, what I am, what's one. Once we come to some adolescent level and we start asking questions, we wonder, all of us, what is the meaning of life? What is there? And people guide us in their own beliefs. We come into families that have their own worldview, and they guide us. Okay, this is our religion. This is our way of believing. This is our philosophy. This is what people said. So I was very interested in all of that and looked into all kinds of religious teachings and wisdom teachings and philosophy. But I thought if I studied physical level of being, so become a doctor and then do research on the brain, I could bridge all of these, because after all, I knew that the brain and the physiology have a lot to do with how we make decisions and etc. So I studied all of these and kept researching, and I was lucky to learn Transcendental Meditation, and it gave me such a profound, deep, direct experience personally of what I would call some absolute which is within us. We live in life in the relative changing. Every day, everything is changing all the time. Every moment is different. Yeah. And there is no continuity. And the continuity is in the self, in knowing ourself, who we are, diving deep into that ocean, and discovering that there is a field which is so continuing, so profound, so peaceful, so harmonious. And so I got interested in that at the same time. And then I started to study consciousness. And I realized that consciousness actually is the most primary value. And that's what got me to search more and more to understand what reality is, how we make our decisions, why we are here. Do we have freedom, or is it all deterministic? What is the source of suffering? Why there is suffering? Why creation is as it is, etc. And these deep questions led me to investigate different philosophies, including the Vedic knowledge. And I was lucky to work with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. This is how we pronounce it. who actually guided me. And with him, I was able to discover and look into and develop within myself the answers to those based on his guidance, and also on, after he left, on looking forward more into what I had learned and come to this conclusion, and wanted to share it with humanity as a whole.
That's amazing. And are there any upcoming projects, courses, or platforms where people can go deeper into your work?
Yeah, the book is a good start. I have a website called drtonynader.com. I have many courses that are there. There is a course called Consciousness Paradigm. I am now teaching a course called Unveiling the True Wisdom of Vedic Knowledge. So I go into Veda and Vedanta, and which has this profound explanation that consciousness is primary, which really joins back, the Tao, Confucius, even Buddhism and other religions. By the way, all of this is spiritual, is not religious, in the sense that it doesn't separate you from any other belief. And it gives you to your inner self, which is the most spiritual part, which is a unified field of being where all differences are nurtured and supported and enlivened. So there is no need to get away from any of your
Thank
beliefs.
you so much for making that distinction, because we hear it all the time, like, but I'm Christian, but I think that really helps that you said that, because a lot of people go there. And how can we stay connected with you and support your mission?
One thing one can do is learn Transcendental Meditation. And when you learn, you are automatically kind of connected.
Yeah.
And if you read the book, if you learn TM, we have a university in Iowa called Maharishi International University. I am the president there. It's consciousness-based education. We are now trying to market it more and make it more known. It teaches all kinds of topics, but all based really on developing the individual, and then the rest is just additional information. But the primary value is to develop the full potential of the individual. It's accredited all the way to the PhD level, and people can check it out if they want an education based on consciousness.
Okay, I'm going to be sending all the links, all of that information you just shared down below. But I just want to close with one thing, and I want to emphasize that you've experienced and explained the consciousness at a level that is so profound. But I want to emphasize to the listeners that unless you experience it, a direct experience through Transcendental Meditation, that means really be in it, because you can't just learn it, because we all learn it. And I lived a lot of my life just learning. But unless you experience it deeply and practice it regularly, all of Dr. Nader's consciousness things will feel very foreign to you. Because what he's saying is you have to experience that direct experience of this vast potentiality that's there. And that experience is so profound, it will never leave you in a void. Do you agree?
Absolutely, beautifully said. Thank you. It's really wonderful.
Yeah.
You have to become the ocean. In order to become the ocean, it's not enough to talk about it, but to just really dive into it. And that ocean is not somewhere there outside. It's right here within you.
Yeah.
And, if you look at your religions deeply, you will find that it's always guiding you there. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Humans were created in the image of God. The Tao, the Confucius, is within, go back to yourself, know thyself. All these philosophies and religion keep telling us the silence within, the being within. And that is a technique how to get there.
Yeah. And I think your work really exemplifies the three things that I know. I have a lot of education, but I learned it's not the credentials, it's not the education, it's the being, it's the experiencing, then comes knowing. You can't bypass any of that.
Beautiful, beautifully said.
Thank you so much. You almost bring tears to my eyes because it was so resonant. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Nader.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you.
Sure, you're going to see me again. I'm going to be
Looking forward.
Anyway, I will be supporting your work all through and through. And thank you.
Thank you.
That's it
If you need one more quick link to get to Learn TM, there is a site called tm.org. For Transcendental Meditation, so tm.org. There you can find a teacher and learn how to see how you can learn.
In any state, all parts of the world.
Any part of the world, yeah.
When you get trained, you guys, you get an app that is fantastic. It's all about Dr. Nader's trainings as well as Dr. or your mentor, Maharishi.
Maharishi, yeah.
It's all there and it's just fascinating and it's a great app to have and it tracks all your meditations. So anyway, thank you, Dr. Nader.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Wonderful. All the best.
Bye for now, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Human OS Mind Your Health Rewired. If something you heard today sparked a shift, share it with someone you love or tag me at Dr. Connie Cheung so we can spread this mission together. To explore programs, trainings, or resources to support your healing, visit hossystems.com. And remember, you're not broken. You're brilliantly wired for healing. You just need the right operating system. Until next time,